I did grow up in a state that is the most racist state. Ended up having my first daughter, and that relationship was horrible. He did not get abusive until I was away from my family, and I ended up in a situation where I had a medical record that was a stack long. I had broken bones and black eyes, and it really was the grace of God that I didn't end up dead.
Welcome to Catch the Moment podcast. I am your host, David Tyree.
It is caught by Tyree. That's a great catch by David Tyree. Oh my God. This ball's thrown and Tyree just goes up for it like a basketball player.
Welcome back to Catch the Moment podcast. This is your host, David Tyree. We are excited for today's guest. This has been a long time coming and some distance traveled, and we always are here to get you to that next moment, get you through the pain points, the process that's going to deliver you to your next moment of success, peace, and purpose. Today I'm here with a new friend, Eleasha Deering, the How Christian stylist, lifestyle influencer, but just a dynamic woman pursuing excellence. How are you?
I am great. Amazing.
Now, I know we had a little talk before, so I got to clear the air. Is it hot, the Halt Christian, the Hot Christian?
The Halt Christian.
The Hot. Because I said that's a conversation of itself. Okay, so I can't wait to get to there. But you've thank you so much. You've come away, which we actually discourage. I'm a Garden State great. I be trying to discourage folks from traveling here, but everything worked out in God's perfect timing, and we're able to spend some time going through your amazing journey. So before we get to it, I know you got some Southern Belle vibes, some football in you. So you got to give me your helmet catch story, where you were when you first ever saw the helmet catch, whether it was in the moment or later on, and what were your thoughts, and any story or anything that you can remember from that time.
I'm trying to see exactly where I was.
That's 2008, February. Yeah, that's Giants playing the Patriots in 2008.
I was in Alaska.
Wow.
I was in Fort Richardson, Alaska. Yeah, I was in Fort Richardson, Alaska. Fort Richardson.
That's unique. That's definitely the first story.
Yes.
Now, were you actually watching the Super Bowl there?
I actually was.
Okay.
I actually did watch it there. I was in Fort Richardson, Alaska. Yes.
What was going on in Fort Richardson?
I was still in the military.
Wow.
Go Army.
Wow. Go Army. First, well, thank you for your service.
Welcome.
That wasn't, wow. So that was an unconfirmed part of the journey that I look forward to getting into right there. Mm-hmm. So we got military. I mean, all right. So did you see the helmet catch? Did you have any thoughts or recollection? Was you like, did you fall asleep on the game? Because I know it's crazy out there in Alaska as far as time.
No, I didn't fall asleep. I watched the whole thing. I thought it was crazy, amazing. But no, because I grew up in a football household.
Okay.
And no, there was a lot of eating going on. It was crazy. Yes.
Got some good wings.
Yes.
What you had over there?
No, we had a lot, some Rotel dip.
Okay, some Rotel.
Wings,
I know about that Rotel dip.
Grew up cooking. So, Southern Belle's, we can do it all. So a lot of good food. So yeah, I did think it was crazy, amazing. So, it is an honor and a privilege, to be here with David. So
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. No, we always try to get a little helmet catch story, a little memory. Most people know exactly where they were. But no, let's move on into some of your insights. So I just like not knowing the fullness, so if somebody rolls across your Instagram and it's the How Christian, and you just do a great job, with your profile, your brand presentation, the lifestyle influencer stuff. But, then you roll across some interesting people, whether it's athletes. So, but then as I'm getting into the background, I'm like, okay, hold up. We got, Dallas Theological Seminary. Then it was like, would you just undergrad? You got military. So it was a lot of depots, but then it's Southern Belle, Mississippi. So I said, we got a lot to dig into here. So in relation to, when I think about first, let's start with the how Christian, because I definitely want to get back into some of the formative. I know there's a lot of substance in the journey in the formative years, but in relation to how you've arrived here in this space, what's the significance of that word, number one, and then tying it to the Christian, but it's also like you're not presenting like Christianity. It's like, no, I'm a lifestyle influencer, and this is authentically who I am and what I'm looking to engage with. So give me a little bit, give us some of that, how this all tied together.
Okay, so the Hulk Christian is God-given, the brand. And I actually did pray when I was looking for the brand name of what I wanted to go with. And because I'm a believer, and many people, mainly believers and others, they have preconceived notions of how you should act, how you should dress, and how you should be. And I wanted to show people different. I wanted to be different, not perfection.
Yeah.
And I wanted to show them different. And that's how the Halt Christian. So Halt means fashionably elegant, elevated. That's what Halt means.
Okay.
And of course Christian, because I'm a believer. So you put that together, fashionably elegant, elevated. And so God is a God of elevation. And so as a believer, and so you put all that together. So that's where that comes from. So lifestyle, you eat, you drink, entertainment, so all of that. So I started out with fashion and beauty, so that put a cap on what I did. So I opened it up. And once I did that, it opened me up to work with a lot of brands. And then, Excellent. Of course, now a lot of people know I work with athletes also.
Yep.
And so that helped me. And so, of course, a lot of people, and it's a conversation starter. So people say, what is Halt? What's the Halt Christian? And that does that. And it's not judgment. And so there's a lot of, when I say religion, so I believe that you can be more, you can wear more, you can do more and still be a believer.
Absolutely. Got to be free.
Yes.
The main thing is just be Christian, right?
Yes.
And the most authentic expression, I tell people, I said, like, you gotta live in the most authentic expression. No one can live more of God than they know.
Yes.
Right? Like,
yes.
I try to put a lot of Christians at ease. I mean, like, I think everybody who actually does believe is living what they know. Now, if they want to know more or be better, or I think those opportunities still exist because that's the growth and the pursuit, and that's great. So then you bring in the freedom and the expression of elevation, fashion, and I like I said, every generation I think is learning from the previous generation. We all got what was handed down. And I think I'll tell people as a father, well, you're trying to just improve on what you just had. So I think there's a lot of that within our faith community as well. So you walking in that freedom. All right, like let's get into this. So I see that pretty well now. Now we got that button up. Okay. Because that shows very well through your page. How so most people want to get into a space, and this influencer world is massive, obviously, and there's a lot of opportunity for anyone. Was it difficult for you to, like, when it comes to, like, okay, wanting to get to the space of working with brands, companies, like, is it just, hey, man, pitching yourself? Like, was it difficult to get to the space where it was clear, where it was easy to find your ideal partner? And what would you say? Because I think everybody would like to find that space where it's like, okay, like, what I'm doing is valuable to someone else. So What did you say? What would you say is key to that process, and as you were evolving your brand?
What I think is key is working on your craft. So you cannot you cannot just throw any type of product. And so one thing I believe in is working in your craft. Okay. I'm an overachiever. So when I grew up, when I grew up, I actually grew up thinking that overachiever was a bad word. And I actually looked up that definition one day. And overachiever is simply a person that goes above and beyond. So you have to work on perfecting your craft. So that's perfecting your content, Excellent. The video content. And that's something you have to do, editing, taking pictures. So what a brand looks for, they look for clean, crisp pictures, videos. And so that's something I did. I purchased a very expensive Canon. I began to build connections, and I began to leverage different photographers, videographers, teams. Now these people are my friends, my family. They began to see the value in me. We began to see the value in each other.
Nice.
So I have teams that I work with. And so you have to work with different people, and that's what I began to do. And as I did that, then brands began to see the value in me.
Nice.
And so that's what you have to do, and it's work, engaging. You have to engage, and you have to, this one thing, you have to seek critiques.
Ooh.
And I began to invest my time.
Yes.
And I would stay up, and to 2:00 in the morning, I enrolled engagement groups, and I got a mentor. Her name is Kate Cole. She's actually, I was in Texas, and she was in PA, and I was on the live, and I asked her for a critique, and she critiqued my page. And from there, I took off. I did a lot of research. Thank you, grad school. And research how to continue to perfect my craft. And that's something I do daily. I'm constantly changing out, perfecting what I do. So perfecting your craft is a must. That never stops. So whatever you do, and that's a big thing that will help you with brands. And I still pitch to brands. I have a team, Rodney Smith, the Ascendancy Group. I had to get my manager to help me, and that's something that I do now. So getting a team, researching, perfecting, that's how you elevate, and that's how you work with the best brands.
That is excellent. That's so much game right there, because I feel like, with the opportunities that exist, people, they don't, like when you feel like you're doing something good and nothing's happening, people, they just quit without understanding that there's a real process. You use some key words like invest, collaborate, time. I mean, don't let me throw out the 2 a.m, so that means sacrifice.
Yes.
Right. And I think it's just imperative, not just in the influencer space, but I feel like if you're going to be excellent at anything, it's the perfecting of your craft, as you just said. Man, that's really good. So now, you obviously have paid the price even at this stage to evolve to this space. Now let's get back into the formative years, because there's some substance up in here. There's some real substance. So I can hear the Southern twang. I'm trying to think if you're definitely the first person I feel like that's homegrown Mississippi on Catch the Moment podcast. So thank you. Thank you. So tell me about that part, like that, because everything that's happened, I would easily within the last 3 to 5 years, we could even go back to the riverboat brawl in Alabama. I mean, Mississippi is the hot spot, but I'm really shaping that in relation to what that must have been like in the character formation. So talk to me about what life was like and how some of that, those formative years growing up in Mississippi was really shaping you as a young lady and as an individual.
I definitely am grateful and thankful for my Southern upbringing. I truly am, because really I did grow up without locking doors. And for my growing up, and I do pride myself, and one thing I can say, people that know me know I pride myself in being an authentic Southern Belle. But however, I did grow up in a state that is the most racist state, and being that now that when we reached the place of the BLM place, for me as a person growing up in Mississippi, not to dismiss George Floyd and everyone else, I felt like that was kind of, not say a smack in the face. I felt like that social media only publicized that for others.
Correct.
And we have a long way to go. I don't think that anything will ever change. I only think that we as a people in Mississippi, we still have a long ways to go. And that's what I have to say as far as a person growing up in Mississippi. I knew that it was not destined for me to stay in Mississippi.
Yeah.
And that was I know from my experiences, I cannot stay in Mississippi. I do have classmates that stayed, but yeah, I knew that I could not stay in Mississippi in that type of situation.
So I mean, like, I can know you have those real confronted. What were one or two experiences, and were any of them traumatic for you? Because I mean, like, sometimes we, having the mind of an overcomer can kind of like reduce the reality of how traumatic or impactful, right? Because it doesn't have to be always traumatic, but even if it's deeply impressionable or impactful. So what was one of the two experiences for you as a young African-American lady, right? You talk about some of the most vulnerable people groups in general as minorities. There's few more vulnerables, especially in a state like Mississippi. So what were some of those experiences, and how did you overcome them, and what was your safety net?
I remember as a young girl seeing a Klan march in my hometown in Main Street. That's one thing that I would never forget. I remember calling a friend, a white friend, and I remember his dad calling me a nigger. And I also remember that same friend telling me that he would not date anyone darker than me. And for me, that was a slap in the face, because for that friend to tell me that, I said to myself that friend is still racist, because for you to say that, you still have racist tendencies. So there's key things that I had in my will forever be in my mind growing up as a black girl in Mississippi. There was people I know that I went to school with, or I grew up around. They may not outwardly said certain things or did certain things, but certain things were low key or hidden. So, and certain things were hush. And I knew certain people also that had kids, but these kids were hidden until these kids were adults, which was crazy. These kids were, and I was just like, this is crazy. Looking at it, I'm like, these kids were hidden until they were like school age. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I can imagine. I tell people, it's like, obviously we're all, I think if you actually have a strong value system that's based on truth and love, then you're, it's just good old MLK civil rights, treating people on the basis of their character, but that's not everybody. And so it really boils down to, how are you training your children? Like, and I said, like, growing up in the North, it was, you can I tell people, like, kids are the best. I mean, like, you can discern, like, kids, you can kind of get the fact that people are uncomfortable, right? Like, discomfort levels, and while it might not always allude to overt racism, it alludes to the fact that they're not comfortable with this relationship yet. So I don't always accuse everyone of racism, and I think I always tell my kids, he who desires friends must first be friendly. Right. So are you going to choose to be the neighbor? Are you going to choose to be the friend? Are you going to choose to be the one who loves? And and you can only give people, right? If people reject you, that's whatever the basis of that rejection is. That just means that's not your people. And but it is a lesson, and I can't imagine learning a lesson like that at that stage is such a profound, more direct, and potentially costly way, right? Like you talk about the history of the Klan and the history of the state of Mississippi. I'm amazed. Like I said, we're in a similar age bracket. It's like I didn't experience any of that. I'm like, that's insane to me. Like that's really, really insane to me. So how did that, like you talked about, you knew that wasn't for you long term, right? Like just kind of growing up, having some of those experiences. What was the trajectory? I know now it wasn't just Dallas Theological. You was in Alaska, right? So like you got some great states. You talking about Mississippi, Texas, Alaska. Obviously, now we're talking about. So what was the trajectory? How did you begin to see yourself maturing through those teen years, and making that way of escape as you were coming to maturity?
So I always knew that I wanted to join the military. I just knew.
Really?
I just knew, because it's crazy, because I've always been very goal oriented, and I play sports, and
What sports did you play? There's another golden nugget right here. Another golden nugget.
I played basketball, and
Okay.
so Charles Barkley and Dennis Rodman was two people I fashioned myself after. I was center forward.
Hold up, we got it. The Heart Christian with her two icons, Dennis Rodman. That is like is gangster and gritty, and okay, so this is revealing. This is when you listen to people, you got to listen to them. Okay, she out here elevated, but inside she's really like Dennis Rodman and Charles Barkley is what we said. Okay, I got you. I'm following.
I took charges. I would foul out. I did. So I was very aggressive. I'm very competitive.
Got it.
Those around me know I'm very competitive, and so I knew that I wanted to join the military, but I never thought active duty.
Okay.
And so what really made me choose active duty, my home life, I had both my parents, but it was dysfunctional. And then I ended up entering a very abusive relationship.
Ooh. Now, is this like prior to marriage? Is this a teen relationship, adult relationship,
Yes.
college relationship?
Teen going into adult. Yes.
Okay.
And so I end up entering into that relationship and end up having my first daughter. And he had joined first. We ended up going to Fort Bragg. And that relationship was horrible. And so he joined. And so if you join the military, they will send you where your
Spouse.
Yes. And so, of course, because he was in, that's how I ended up active duty.
Got it.
And I was in North Carolina, and he got orders to go to Alaska. And that's how I first ended up in Alaska.
Got it.
Yes.
So, all right. So, I mean, like, in the most comfortable way that you feel sharing, because obviously relationships are complex and complicated. But ultimately how you survive these particular seasons of your life is what allows us to obviously make better decisions. Like what did you feel like was the weakness, right? Because I've like, man, I'm talking about like I made all my dumb decisions early. Like I'm talking about, boy, like my crazy girlfriend was at 14, 15 years old. You know, she tried to slice me. You know, like, so everybody, you know, like I said, you grew up probably with a little more values than I did. I was out here in these streets.
Oh my goodness.
So, you know, like when you talk about a lesson that was learned at that stage for you, everybody wants romance. Everybody wants healthy relationships. What did you feel like was missing? And was there something in you that, where there was a weakness, there was, you know, that he saw? And was it physical? Was it verbal? Was it mental abuse? All of them are equally evil on every level. And how did you survive it?
It was, I know it was my dad, and it's crazy because I was just talking to one of my other cousins, because my dad in the South, the man just provides. And my dad, he was there, but he wasn't there.
Got you.
And my ex, he did not get abusive until I was away from my family.
Ooh, isolation.
Yes.
Yep.
And then I would say, okay, he would not do it. And the thing about it was, my dad and my mother, they would argue, and I said, I would never do that. I would never, you know, be in a relationship where I would argue, and found myself in a situation that was far worse. And I talk about this, and I've talked to different people about this, and it's sad to say, because if someone hits you and they're abusive and you're in an abusive situation, if they don't get help, it's a continuous cycle, because it was continuous. And I ended up in a situation where I had a medical record that was a stack long, where
so sorry.
I had broken bones and black eyes, and it really was the grace of God that I didn't end up dead. Wow. And so that's one thing I talk to men and women about it, and I was just like, I went through that, and it was almost, I was in an out of body experience.
Wow, yes.
Because I remember, and I was praying, and I went to a place, and I said I couldn't sleep, and I really felt like I was going to have a nervous breakdown. And I sat there and I said, this is not me. This is not me. And I got up and I walked out, and I said, God, I said, if you want me to be in this situation, or if you want me to leave, then get me out of this situation. Mm-hmm. And God opened the door, and I jumped out. I jumped out of that situation. Wow. And I talk about it, and it was crazy. Mm-hmm. But that was a mistake. I wasn't in love. And I talked to my kids, and I talked to people. I said, you're not in love. You don't know if you're in love when you're that young. I said, a lot of adults don't even know what love is.
Come on, man. Let's talk about it.
I wasn't even in lust, to be honest. I was just doing something. I was young. Yeah. And we both played basketball, and I was like, we got the same basketball number. I was stupid. I said, we got the same basketball number.
Had a little loving basketball flowing at the time.
We got the same basketball number.
Omar Epps.
He looked all right. And I was like, my mama said, don't, And I was like, yeah, my mama said no. And it was just crazy. Yep. I tell people I was stupid.
Yeah.
But
but it's serious. I mean,
I paid the price. I had to pay the price, and God would deal with you no matter what age you are, and I paid the price for that. But God allowed me to go through that situation, and I was so crazy at that time. And one of my neighbors in Alaska literally saw this guy punch me in the back of the head.
What?
And she called the police.
Whoa,
when they came, and I'm sitting up there lying, I said, no, she didn't see him punch me in the back of my head.
Woo.
They took him to jail. And you know what? When I went to Fort Leonard Wood, and I came back, and I told her, I said, I'm sorry. I said, you did see him punch me in the back of the head. Like, we can do some stuff, and that's why. And I used to be the same person to say, why would people stay in a relationship? Or how can somebody be in that situation? And that's why I tell people, don't say what you will not do.
Man.
But I went through that situation. Stitches in the mouth, stapled in the head, broke toe. Oh. This guy literally punted my foot and broke my toes. Man. So and we talked about family, fathers.
Yeah.
That's how important fathers are.
Listen, this could be a discourse because now we're at the day, age, and era where I believe I think it's 40%, 46% of children today are born without their fathers at home. So I just heard this statistic. I think it was from Patrick David Bett, and it was like at one point in 1940 it was 4%. So when we talk about the vulnerability of children, it's because they're unprotected. I mean, like they're unprotected, they're unsecure, and they're unaffirmed, which is a unique grace that a father provides. It's a unique grace. It doesn't mean that that we can't get it. I was born out of a single mother home. I honor my mom, but my father has something unique that I needed. I was vulnerable. I was vulnerable to the streets, to entertainment, to all kind of forms of surrogacy. Like sports is like a surrogate father. I tell people all the time, football was the ultimate surrogate father, meaning it affirmed it. It gave us purpose, right? And it gave us an identity. And those are the things that a father uniquely has the ability to give to his family. So, and I think most children will be vulnerable at some capacity. Don't mean that they won't develop to be upstanding. Doesn't mean that they can't be successful. It just means that there's increased opportunities of risk and increased opportunities of failure. Every statistic and metric has been sounded off on every end because of the absence of fathers. And some of it is physical, but the biggest is physical, but even emotionally, right? Especially for women. Like I said, like the emotional, I have 3 daughters. I have 4 boys and three. My girls, they already know. Like the rite of passage is coming through daddy. They get secured, they get dated, they get, so that they understand that they're safe, secure, and have the right expectations of what a man could be for them. So, man, you are a warrior. You are a warrior, but even more so, you are blessed to be an overcomer. Thank God that not only that you survived it, but that you can stand here today and be thriving, to be able to be an inspiration to tell that story, because it's very layered. Like I said, relationships are layered. Like the human heart and what we desire is very complex. Like we want things to work. Like even when there's pure delusion. But no man, like I said, is no way to justify that kind of evil, and that's another side of it as well that has its own bearing. So, man, thank you for being brave enough to share that. You're gonna help a lot of people in continuously through that heart, through that healing. So that's powerful. Oh my goodness. So so let's boogie on through here. I want to get into a little bit more. Who are, like, I consider this journey, no one can survive that without a real ecosystem of, your faith is clearly central to your journey. But who have been the people you even mentioned in the business, like you've had some mentors along the way? Who have been the people that have kind of been healthy threads for your well-being, your development, and your success along the way?
So now, we're talking about presently or just now, point blank?
I'll let you identify the people. Yeah, because I know that you got different seasons and impasses, so I can imagine that list it could be somebody from the start, or it could be people who really you've evolved into spaces. So I'll let you shape that.
So honestly, and I was going to share this too, when I left and joined the military, it has been a lot of people that I connected with the military. Okay. Because the path that I took as far as my walk with God has been different. And
because military life, wow. My sister did 13 years Marines.
Really?
Her husband did 22. I'm like, boy, y'all so wild. Like, people talk about the locker room. I said the military and the locker room. I said, it's some freedom in there, but there's some wacky stuff going on. So
it is.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, we have some people that went left and
of
try
course.
to shoot up people. So
Everywhere.
you have people, and that's why I tell, even mainly women, they were like, I want a soldier. Some of them, all them soldiers ain't right. Honestly, all them soldiers ain't right.
Yep.
But me personally, even though I always had people around me because I was in extracurricular activities.
Okay.
Because of my faith and my relationship with God, I kind of always been somewhat of a black sheep because
Okay.
I've had a pure relationship with God. So I kind of look like, okay, she's holy. She's righteous. So it really was those, I don't know if you've ever seen the show Band of Brothers. So we were a band of brothers or sisters. So it was those people that I connected with in the military. My friend Keisha, different people, they helped me out with my daughter. So it was those people that I connected with.
Man.
And I'm still really good friends with a lot of people
That's great.
I connected with in the military. And then and sometimes it's sad to say, and it make me think about what Jesus said, who is my mother, who's my father. And I'm just like, it's those people that
Who do the will of God.
It's been those people. And when I came down here to Texas, and even on the route as an influencer, a lot of people did not understand that. And as far, it has sometimes a few of my relatives, but it hasn't been a lot of my blood relatives.
I tell. Well, that's a define. I think people are starting to grow to understand that. Like that's a maturity thing, where number one, I would love to have deeper relationships with some of my family members, but you have to align with people according to your values, right? Like how can you abandon, your true values, what makes you who you are as a person, just for the pretense of the idea of family. Like true family is those who actually do the same things, say the same things, aspire. So you realize when people depart in beliefs, we also depart in affections too. And that becomes sad because, like I said, when you grow up with somebody, when you're related to somebody, you kind of have this, like, this should be better. Like, we supposed to be aligned on this, but we're not.
Yeah.
Man.
And you have to be okay with that. And when I was younger, when I first left Mississippi, I felt the type of way and I felt burdened by that. But as my relationship grew with God, it didn't burden me.
Yeah.
And even coming here and here lately the past few years as I began to work with different athletes. One person who I have Bible study with, Tony Hills. Tony has been a big support. Rodney Smith.
Yep.
So Rodney, me and Alden Smith,
Yeah.
And so Alden always give me these stories. He's like, look, Eleasha, and you can't expect you out of people.
Yeah.
So I have key people, and I'm not always. I protect my peace.
Great.
I'm not always.
That's a great way of saying it right there. Protecting your peace.
I'm not always out like that. So I only have certain people that I'm around. So those are some of the key people that I'm always that's feeding really the word of God in me. When I finished my bachelor's at Dallas Baptist and my grad school at Dallas Baptist. The people that I met there, it's only, like I said, it's only a few.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
And I remember one day I laid out. I really was prostrate. And I said, God, I look back and I said, God, I've really been alone. I said, I've been alone. But I told him, I said, I'm okay with that. Like I said, I've been around and I'm constantly around people.
Sure.
But I'm alone. He isolates me a lot. But the people that are of value, the things that are of value, that's what I want to be a part of. Those are the people that I want around me. What's of value? That's
good. And really arriving at that stage. So what are you most excited about? Like, You mentioned, I mean, Alden Smith, and like I said, I've got a chance to have a good conversation with Rodney and some really wonderful, influential people, and even in the athlete space. What has been the most satisfying part of, kind of making these authentic relationships in spaces where people can only aspire to be, right? It sounds like, God's moved you in, your brand values moved you in. What's been the most gratifying part of working in these particular spaces where most people would just covet to be, but you just kind of respectfully, gracefully entered into? And what you're most excited about moving forward?
Just to be able to sow into their lives the way God has me to.
Sure.
And do you remember Sixth Sense, how he said, I see dead people? I just see people.
Okay.
And that's the thing I tell people. I just see people. And people always ask me, how is it working around athletes? I said, I see people.
Yeah.
So I see them in such a different way. And a lot of they're really honestly my friends, and we talk about real stuff. And a lot of times, we're talking about God, and we're just talking about stuff, and I'm styling them, and I just got a new position with the NFL Players Association they wanted me to shout that out. I don't know if you know Byron Williams. He played with the Giants back in the day.
I do know Byron.
So he said you got to mention the NFL Players Association for Dallas Fort Worth. So I just got a new position. I'm helping them.
Excellent.
And so I said, God, I said, we're just gonna see. I said, you opened this door. I didn't ask for it, and I said, I don't know. You open it. We just gonna see where it go. I definitely believe with God, nothing happens by coincidence, and.
Sure.
We're just gonna see. He brought me down this path, and I'm on for the ride to see how, like, why he got me working for these athletes. But I know these athletes, and I know he has a purpose and a plan.
That has been revealed. Even your painful places that God has brought you through has been revealing a tons of purpose. It's been, that's completely evident. But even more so, I really love what you just said. I see people. My company is DT3, and it's those 3 T's: truth, transparency, and transformation. So transparency is just the ability to see and be seen. Mm-hmm. And you realize that people are more secure and whole. And I think that's a safety thing, right? Like, you don't share everything with everybody. Mm-hmm. But the more free you are, the more whole you become, the more that you can see and be seen.
Yep.
So God bless you for that, because I think that's where people feel loved the most. Mm-hmm. That's where people experience the most value the most, when they're like, oh man, you see me. Mm-hmm. You see me. So in our athlete community, we need that. Like, we need it badly. Most people, these are very young men, obviously finding an immense amount of success. And we've been paid well, but there's a side to it where it's, you get cast away too. Everything's performance driven, and it's not just, people ain't just loving you just because they love you. Mm-hmm. They love you because you're the best at what you do. Mm-hmm. And when you're no longer the best at what you do, now you gotta reset the clock. Mm-hmm. So tell me, what would you say has been, because when I think about your journey, the experiences even through military and now today, what is your defining moment? I do like to ask our guests that. What would you say is your defining moment, and up to this stage that has brought you to the place of stability, security, and meaning?
I would say, for me, my moment would be when God told me to leave the corporate world to become an influencer. And for that, I always look at it, a lot of people pivot or transition when there's turmoil, and a lot of people don't leave when it's calm, or they don't listen when it's calm. Well, everything was going great, and I was at the prime, and I was at my, before I was I took the position at my corporate job. It was after grad school, and I was competing with 3 people, and I was doing well, and I took the position, and I was there for a while, and God said leave, and I was like, huh? And I was like, huh? And I was like, no, I'm not supposed to go. And God was like, no, you have to go. And I left, and with that, I never thought that I would take this path, but God sent me down this path, and slowly I see, and I said, and these are the questions I asked, and I said, and I say this, and I continue to say this, everything happens for a reason with God. And I said, God, I know you sent me to grad school for a reason now. And I said, some of these classes gonna help me in the up the road.
Sure.
And once again, I say you have to be sensitive.
That's good.
And listen, you have to be sensitive, look for God, because so many people I know that left their jobs and left the places they were at. It was during, their jobs were chaotic and so many things happened. But as I left and to influence, and we have to know how to use our power and how to use it in the way that God wants us to use it, and learn that it's not during a place of turmoil and during transition. We have to know that we have to use it how he sees fit. And to me, that was a moment for me. I always think about it. Don't think that your moment will be during turmoil. It can be when it's calm, and we have to use it as he sees, how he sees fit.
Ooh, hold up, that was a dime right there. Okay, because I'm gonna tell you the biggest part that blessed me is using what God gave you as he sees fit. And I think that, everybody's given a measure of gifts in their life and experience, and hopefully we're adding tools to the toolkit. But I've really found that's one of the biggest difficulty for people in general, is that what they have, we immediately assume that what we have is just for us. And just because God gave it to us, it's as if he doesn't have a say-so on how we actually steward it. And that's a really powerful opportunity, because that's when you get a chance to maximize the reward. I mean, just kind of submitting this. God, how do you want me to do this? I see that you gave me this, but how do you want me to? Thank you so much for sharing that, because and then obviously not assuming that transition has to happen in turmoil.
Yep.
Right? Like, things could be well. Hopefully everybody got these. Those were 2 gems. So thank you for sharing those pivotal moments. Miss Eleasha, oh my goodness. Well, I'm sure it won't be the last time we keep building, but tell everybody where they can find you, and just where they can find you and how we can continue to follow, your journey, move forward.
My IG handle is Halt Christian. That's HAUTE Christian. My other platforms is The Halt Christian.
There it is. Make sure y'all follow on IG. Make sure y'all stay in tune. Make sure y'all stay elevated, because that's what the Halt Christian is about. You got to stay elevated. You got to stay classy. You know what I'm saying? And you can stay righteous. Come on, somebody. Listen, we need righteousness in the world. So thank you for your platform. Thank you for your story. Thank you for being an overcomer. Thank you for being transparent. You bless me. You bless so many others. And listen, thank y'all for tuning in to this episode of Catch the Moment Podcast. You continue to be on that pursuit of getting great done. We'll check back with you soon. God bless. Get great done.